Good morning, everyone. My name is Isaac Smith from Atlant Real Estate Consultants Limited. So, a lot of our clients in diaspora have been calling to ask me how safe, how authentic, how genuine it is for them to invest in the Nigerian real estate, especially in Lagos. Despite the fact that this estate have one or two titles on them, so I decided to make some clarifications to enlighten you our viewers more on this landed title, because a land is nullified if it doesn't have a title on them. So stay back as I do some little explanations on the landed title. Thank you very much. So we are going to be starting from the Land Use Act of 1978. So the Land Use Act of 1978 gave the state governors control over lands which they manage on behalf of the people. This is aimed to make it easy to allocate land for different purposes such as farming, building, and to reduce the problems that are involved with buying land, and also to break down the old ways of owning lands that were holding back the country's development. So these lands were classified into two. This means that we have two major classifications of lands. One, we have the committed acquisitions, and we also have the free acquisitions. Now, the lands under committed acquisitions are lands that the government has set aside for specific things such as parks, school, hospital, roads, railways, cemeteries, and some road paths. This means that this land cannot be used for anything else. It can never develop, it cannot be changed. So any individual that decide to buy properties knowingly and unknowingly on these classifications, which is government acquisition land, is buying at his or her own risks. The problem might not come now, but definitely there's going to be problem on that land tomorrow. So we also have the global or the free acquisitions, which is the freehold. Now, this is a kind of land that is considered free. This means that the government have no interest in whatsoever in that land. This kind of land is safe to buy. It is registered and have a title which is perfected on it without issues. This means that these titles can be perfected without issues, and the titles can be done such as CFO, governor consent, and the likes. So the free acquisition is a kind of land that is considered free because the government have no interest and they have not indicated any interest in that land. So such kind of land is safe to buy. It has a registered titles and it can be perfected without any issues. In most cases, this land can either have a gazette, a CFO, a government consent. So the government has no hand on that land, which is why it is free from any individual or government encumbrances. So this is the kind of land we talk about, and this is the kind of land most of us sell. That is why it's good to make research on if a land is either committed or it is a freehold. So now let's talk about the classifications of the title of these lands. So let's talk about the CFO, which everybody knows about, which is the certificate of occupancy. The CFO is an official document which is issued by the government of Nigeria, and this certifies that a person or an organization is the original, the legal owner of that piece of land or property. Now, there are two types of CFO. We have the mixed development CFO and the agricultural form of CFO. So for the mixed development CFO, the duration of that CFO is 99 years, while for the agricultural CFO, the duration is 25 years. So anytime you are buying a property with C of O, or anytime you are looking for properties with C of O, you need to check to make sure which of the C of O is on that property. Is it the agricultural C of O or the mixed C of O? So this is what some people don't know about. Some people don't, they just say, okay, I need a land of C of O. They don't do the due diligence to check if it's the C of O on that land is for the mixed or for the agricultural purpose. So another important thing you must know about is to check on the year which the C of O was issued. For example, if a C of O was issued in 1980 and you are buying that property in 2024, that means that 44 years is gone out of that 99 years C of O. And you know that the C of O cannot be issued twice on that same property. That is why we have the governor's consent. So now you need to check when was that C of O issued and what period, what year remains on that C of O. Now, why can't the C of O be issued twice? Now, I want you to know that the first person on a virgin land, this means that the first person to occupy a land which nobody has ever bought. And what is the virgin land? It is a land which nobody has ever done any title on. Even the government have not acquired it. It is not under the government acquisitions. So government is not having a hand in that land. So they are not interested in that land. And that person buys the land as a virgin land. He is entitled to obtain the C of O on that land. Now, if that person or the group of organization decide to sell that property again after obtaining a C of O, the new buyer must now obtain the consent of the governor before that transaction can be seen as legal in the eyes of the government. So that means that the first person who bought the virgin land has done the C of O, and you that is the new buyer don't need to do any C of O because it cannot be done twice. So now you have to obtain a government and the governor's consent so that this can be legal in the eyes of the government. Now, if the new buyer, after doing the governor's consent, decide to sell the land again to the third buyer in future, the third buyer now must obtain a new consent of the governor before the transaction can be deemed legal in the eyes of the government. And the process continues every time the property is changing hands from one new buyer to a new buyer. So every subsequent buyer of that land must get a governor's consent. This is the power of the governor's consent. Some people were like, oh, I don't want land with governor's consent. I want a C of O. Whereas there are some particular areas that every properties in that area has been bought by an individual and he has resold them to so many developers. Now you as a buyer cannot do another C of O again. You just need to do a governor's consent. So that means that the C of O can never be done twice. So now I'm going to be telling you some characteristics of the C of O, which is the governor's, which is the certificate of occupancy. Now, the certificate of occupancy must have the certificate number, which is the C of O number. It must have the file number. It must also have the number of plots. If it's 10 plots, whatever, one plot, the numbers must be specified in that document. The location of the estate, the location of the property must be there. The size, if it is a 1,000, 10,000 or 300 square meters, it must be there. It must be drafted there. And also the survey plan must be written there. The date which the certificate was issued and the lease term. which is the duration which I talked about earlier, and the initial and annual ground rent fee, which is how much you bought it, and also the land purpose. The land, what are you using this land for? Is it for commercial purpose or residential purpose? And also there must be a term and condition must be applied, must be stated out on that CFO. So now, having said these little things about the CFO, the CFO is a very powerful document everyone must have. And if you're buying a property that doesn't have a CFO but has a governor's consent, you are safe to buy it. It's a good title. So don't be scared if a property is having a governor's consent. It is a good title. So now let me talk about the why this CFO, how important it is to have a CFO. Now, if you have a CFO, it gives you the proof of ownership. That means that having a CFO ascertains a proof of ownership that you are the actual owner of this property. The CFO prevents the government from confiscating that land or the property without any compensation. So maybe tomorrow the government decide to put interest or decide to buy that place, you will be compensated if you have a CFO on that land. That's if you did not buy properties under government acquisition. But if you bought your properties in a freehold estate, in a freehold land, you will be compensated if the government want to maybe use the property or buy it from you. You will definitely be compensated. But if you did not buy it, if you bought it at the initial stage whereby the land is being acquired by the government, whereby the land is owned by the government, and you were not aware or ignorant, you will not be compensated. But if you bought it at a genuine estate, a genuine land which the government had no interest on, and the government decide to buy from you, you will highly be paid and compensated. Now, if a property has a CFO, it increases the value of that land in future. So if your property has a CFO, the market value of that property in future goes higher, because every land that has CFO in Lagos or anywhere is selling at a very high rate. So now, if you have a CFO on the land, you can use that property for loans and to access loans. That means it's easy for you to have access to loans and facilities and all. So this is how important it is to have a CFO. So I'm not saying others are not good. I'm not saying that the governor's consent or the gazette are not strong. These are strong documents. What I'm trying to say is that the CFO cannot be done twice in a particular property. Once it is done once, you that is buying that property from that initial owner who have done the CFO, you need to process the governor's consent, a document which is the governor's consent, to let the government to be aware that you are buying this CFO property from this person, and therefore the government is going to approve you and give you their own consent, which is the government consent. So, amazing client, I used to say, this is a little about the land document. So feel free to buy properties that are having the CFO, the governor's consent, the gazette, and even if you're buying this property, make sure you still do your due diligence. Remember, I told you that there are two classes of the CFO. So when you are checking for your CFO, you make inquiries, you ask them with proof that how many years is this CFO? Is it for agricultural purpose? Is this land having the CFO for agricultural purpose or for the mixed development, which is 99 years? Remember, 99 years is different from 25 years. And also, you must also check what year was the CFO granted. What year was the CFO done on that land, so that you can know the number of years that are left on that CFO. So my name is Isaac Smith. This is a little piece of a real estate talk with Isaac Smith. So amazing clients, anytime you want properties around, that you need properties with government consent, with good genuine CFO, make sure you reach out to me and let me do the errand. Let me run your errands, your real estate errands, anytime, any day. From Atlan Real Estate Consultants Limited, my name is Isaac Smith, and I hope and I pray to see you shortly. Thank you very much. Bye bye.